Good morning. Welcome to our first Planning Commission meeting of the year. Today is January 8th, 2026, and I call the Planning Commission meeting to order at 9 a.m. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Can we get verification of legal notice? Thank you. Nothing in our consent agenda. So we'll move on to public input before our 9:05 item. So this is a chance for anyone in the public to speak for 3 minutes regarding a subject that's not on today's agenda. So I welcome you guys here in chambers to, if anyone has any public comments, you can come up to the podium, or we can take a look in the Zoom room to see if there's anyone that wishes to participate in public comment. I believe we're not getting anyone in the Zoom or in the chamber, so we'll just wait for our first item, which will be at 9:05. It's currently 9:02, so we'll have about 3 minutes of silence for that item to come up. All right, so I do have a time of 9:05 a.m., so we'll take our first item, item 6A, consideration of request for recommendation of adoption of draft Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. So we have a presentation from staff. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair Chavez and Planning Commissioners. I'm Shannon Walker-Smith, Deputy Community Development Administrator. And as you know, we have been working for 2 years on the Climate Adaptation Plan, kind of alongside the general plan. And but we're wrapping that product up on a grant deadline. That's because we've worked with other county departments and the RCD in this partnership around some climate related projects, and this being one of the grant funded projects. So we are moving towards adoption this month, which is very exciting. And we have done extensive community engagement as well as posted the draft document for public comment and now incorporated those comments into the draft. So we are here today. Sam, if you could promote Jacqueline to a panelist, and Tammy Seeley if she's on as well. Our PlaceWorks team is going to give a brief presentation about the project overall, and then we'll ask for your recommendation.
Thanks, Shannon. I will go ahead and share my screen. And just want to confirm before I get started, is my, can you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So thank you again, Shannon, and good morning, commission members. So for this presentation, we'll include an overview of the Climate Adaptation Plan and all of its components. We'll summarize the community engagement activities that Shannon was mentioning, conducted for the plan development process, provide an overview of the contents of the plan itself, and then provide recommended next steps. So based on the staff report in the agenda packet, staff are requesting the commission recommend the Board of Supervisors approve the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. So this project has been led by county staff through the Community Development Department in partnership with the Office of Climate Resilience and in coordination with the cities of Clear Lake and Lakeport and the Lake County Resource Conservation District. So kind of a multidisciplinary team. My name is Jacqueline Protzman-Rohr with PlaceWorks. I'm the project manager on the consultant team, and I'm joined by Tammy Seal, who has been principal in charge for the consultant team as well. So to start off with a bit of background, This effort began with the establishment of the Community Risk Reduction Authority in 2018, and then the formation of the Lake County Office of Climate Resilience in 2022. The Community Risk Reduction Authority, in coordination with the Office of Climate Resilience, adopted the Pillars of Landscape Resilience in 2023. And then later that same year, Lake County, in partnership with the Resource Conservation District and the cities, were awarded the California Adaptation Planning Grant for the Equitable Climate Safe Lake project. In 2024, the project team began developing the climate vulnerability analysis, the countywide evacuation study, and the climate adaptation plan concurrent with Lake County 2050 general plan update. The project team held several community engagement events between August and November of 2025 to get feedback on both the vulnerability analysis and input on the adaptation plan. So an overview of the adaptation plan. The goal of the climate adaptation plan is to develop a roadmap for building climate resilience across both unincorporated and incorporated areas of Lake County. This process identified key climate hazards and the most vulnerable communities, natural systems, and built systems through the climate vulnerability analysis. And during the plan development process, the project team aimed to integrate with existing county plans, programs, and initiatives wherever possible, including framing the plan based on the Office of Climate Resilience, Pillars of Landscape Resilience. The Climate Adaptation Plan provides practical and feasible solutions to reduce climate risk, considering existing resources, gaps, and capacity constraints, with clear pathways for implementation. So this plan was developed based on the 4-step process outlined in the California Adaptation Planning Guide. During the first phase of the project, the team initiated the process by defining the scope of the vulnerability analysis. Phase 2 focused on assessing vulnerability, or the degree to which populations and assets would be affected by climate change hazards, with the climate vulnerability analysis as the main product of this phase. Phase 3 focused on defining the adaptation framework and developing strategies and actions for those pillars. And then the next phase, phase 4, will focus on implementation, where funding will be secured, implementation will be monitored, and the plan may be adjusted over time to account for capacity and the needs of the community. So this plan is intended to be a living document that supports other plans and programs, and therefore integrates with several other plans to do so. The Lake County General Plan will use the climate vulnerability analysis to inform long-term climate resilience policies and programs. And similarly, the city of Lakeport and Clear Lake can use the climate vulnerability analysis for the same thing. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan and the Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan can act as implementation tools to implement the actions and strategies of the adaptation plan, with the adaptation plan's long-term resilience strategies and the wildfire protection plan and hazard mitigation plans, near-term hazard reduction projects. The capital improvement plan can also act as an implementation tool with the climate vulnerability analysis and strategies informing infrastructure planning projects for resilience. The CAP can also provide a long-term framework for implementing drought preparedness strategies in conjunction with the drought resilience plan. And then finally, the Blue Ribbon Committee for the Rehabilitation of Clear Lake provides recommendations for restoring Clear Lake, which are integrated into the adaptation plan to support the economy, ecosystems, and heritage of the area. So now for the climate vulnerability analysis. To start off with, what is a vulnerability analysis? According to the California Adaptation Planning Guide, the primary guidance document for these type of analyses across the state, a vulnerability analysis is an assessment of how a changing climate may harm a community and which elements are most vulnerable to its effects. The project team used a 4-step process outlined here for evaluating vulnerabilities. Step 1, identifying exposure to hazards. Step 2, analyzing sensitivity of populations, community assets, and the potential impacts of the hazards. Step 3, evaluating adaptive capacity, which is the ability of populations and assets to prepare for, respond to, and recover from hazards using existing resources. And then bringing all of those together for step 4, which is assessing overall vulnerability. The vulnerability analysis evaluated how 91 different population groups and community assets across the unincorporated Lake County and the cities of Lakeport and Clear Lake were vulnerable to 8 different climate change hazards. These included agricultural and forestry pests and diseases, drought, extreme temperatures, including both extreme heat and extreme cold, flooding, human health hazards, landslides and debris flow, severe weather, and wildfire and smoke. And here are the key findings from the vulnerability analysis. Wildfire and smoke create the most vulnerabilities across all sectors. And then the most vulnerable populations are people of color and immigrant communities, financially constrained households, those with chronic illnesses or disabilities, older adults, people with high outdoor exposure, such as unhoused persons or outdoor workers, and persons in tribal communities. For the built environment, the most vulnerable assets are energy and communication infrastructure and services, homes, especially older and manufactured homes, transportation infrastructure, including both state highways and local roads, agriculture as an economic driver, and outdoor recreation and tourism as economic drivers. And in this analysis, city and county staff contributed to and reviewed the analysis at each phase of the process. So the project team took the results of the climate vulnerability analysis and integrated them with the pillars of landscape resilience, which I'll now briefly go over. Adopted in 2023, the Pillars of Landscape Resilience framework is based on the Tahoe Central Sierra Initiative. With feedback from local tribes in Lake County, the images for the pillars were adapted to better reflect Lake County. This framework recognizes the interdependence of ecological and social systems and provides metrics for measuring progress towards ecosystem and community resilience. There are 10 pillars total, representing desired landscape outcomes. These include air quality, biodiversity conservation, carbon sequestration, economic diversity, fire-adapted communities, biodynamics, forest resilience, social and cultural well-being, water security, and wetland integrity. So before I get into the plan components itself, I wanted to go over the community engagement throughout this process. So the project team hosted and attended several community engagement events throughout the plan development process, which really shaped the adaptation plan. The first set of engagement activities for the adaptation plan integrated with the Lake County 2050 general plan update. A countywide survey was open in 2024, which received 718 responses. On the climate adaptation side for this survey, community members were asked about their hazards of most concern, how informed they are about emergency preparedness, and how community members feel about evacuation. In coordination with the general plan team, the adaptation plan project team attended 2 general plan advisory committee meetings in spring and summer of 2024. The first of those meetings provided an introduction to the plan, and the second reviewed key issues identified through other engagement processes. Following the GPAC meetings, the project team attended 3 general plan interested party meetings on the topics of environmental justice, including the Spanish-speaking community and agriculture. During the climate vulnerability analysis and adaptation plan development, we engaged with several of the local tribes, including the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, Elam Indian Colony of Pomo Indians of Sulphur Bank Rancheria, Abevatolel Pomo of Upper Lake, Hoy Nation of Northern California, Robinson Rancheria of Pomo Indians of California, and Middletown Rancheria of Pomo Indians of California. Our outreach included the formal SB 18 tribal consultation process between February 2024 and January 2025, where the tribes identified the following. Wildfires, drought, flooding, and pest outbreaks threaten access to traditional gathering areas, medicinal plants, and ceremonial resources. Smoke and heat hazards affect both tribal members working in agriculture and the broader community. We identified existing prescribed and cultural burning programs, and the tribes also identified existing housing challenges, particularly for younger tribal members who face limited options and an aging housing stock. We held an additional tribal review meeting prior to the public review period this past October, where tribes emphasized the importance of integrating traditional ecological knowledge and culturally informed land stewardship practices into climate adaptation. During the public review of the climate vulnerability analysis and development of the adaptation plan, the project team also held a series of adaptation-specific engagement activities. A survey was conducted from August to September 2025 for the climate vulnerability analysis, asking community members for their feedback on the findings, community resources and potential barriers, and ideas for building resilience. We also held several interested parties and agency meetings in September, including a city and county department meeting, and then interest group meetings, including community-based organizations, agricultural representatives, business groups, and environmental groups. These meetings had topic-focused discussions to learn about existing programs, gaps, barriers, and also potential adaptation strategies. During the same period, the project team held a town hall for the Risk Reduction Authority, which included a discussion of existing programs and resources for community resilience, and found that funding and communication are primary barriers for resilience, and that there is strong community support for climate adaptation overall. And then the last set of engagement activities included study sessions between October and November of last year, including attending several municipal advisory committee meetings throughout the county, going to hosting a GPAC and LAPAC meeting connecting this project with the general plan, and then study sessions with the Lake County Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, Lakeport City Council, and Clear Lake City Council. Common concerns throughout these meetings included obtaining the money and staffing for implementing the adaptation actions, how the CAP will integrate with other city and county plans, overall water quality in Clear Lake, wildfire impacts to workers, and co-management of adaptation strategies with tribes. The vulnerability analysis, pillars of landscape resilience, and community feedback and input were all used to develop the climate adaptation plan, which I'll now go over. The plan itself covers, again, the unincorporated areas of Lake County, along with the cities of Clear Lake and Lakeport, and is generally organized by the pillars of landscape resilience. The plan contains background sections summarizing the climate vulnerability analysis and local knowledge and lived experiences from community engagement across these cities and county. The resilience strategies and actions are based on the pillars of landscape resilience, identifying feasible solutions that provide multiple benefits. One key component of this plan, the project team recognized the great work that is already happening across the county and the cities, and therefore highlights existing partnerships and programs under each pillar of the plan. For the resilience strategies and actions, they're organized by goal, strategy, and action. The goals are the broad outcomes or end states describing desired future conditions. The strategies are policies, programs, and approaches to achieving that goal. And the actions are the implementation steps for each strategy. And the actions, because their implementation steps have a bit more detail, including responsible and supporting agencies, implementation timeframes, general cost estimates, and potential funding sources. So the next several slides go through the actual content in the plan itself. For the goals, there are 10 total, again, following the pillars of landscape resilience, air quality, advancing community resilience to smoke and poor air quality events, biodiversity conservation, the county network of native species and ecological communities is healthy, abundant, and distributed across the landscape, carbon sequestration, enhanced carbon sequestration capacity across several ecosystems and working lands, economic diversity, a sustainable and resilient natural resource-based economy, fire-adapted communities, fire-prepared and resilient communities with the capacity to manage desired fire and suppress unwanted fire. Fire dynamics, fires burning in ecologically beneficial and socially acceptable ways. Forest resilience, resilient forest ecosystems that provide essential ecosystem services. Social and cultural well-being, a community connected with nature to recreate, maintain, and improve overall health. Water security, reliable, safe, and equitable access to clean, potable water. And then wetland integrity. Protected and restored wetland and riparian ecosystems provide essential ecosystem services. So each of these goals in the plan has anywhere from 2 to 4 strategies, depending on existing gaps, barriers, and programs. So for air quality, these include infrastructure for wildfire protection, wildfire smoke response programs, and air quality protocols integrated into public operations and services. Under biodiversity conservation, these include habitat connectivity, interagency coordination, comprehensive invasive species management, and aquatic habitat protection and restoration. For carbon sequestration, natural carbon sequestration management and coordination, carbon smart agricultural and grassland practices, and considerations for planning and development. For economic diversity, these include climate resilience, agriculture and small businesses, sustainable outdoor recreation, support for the most vulnerable businesses, and then tribal economic sovereignty. Under fire adapted communities, strategies include multicultural outreach and education, fire resilient housing, community scale resilience, and resilient infrastructure in isolated high risk communities. Under fire dynamics, we've included landscape scale prescribed fire, and then fuel reduction in high use recreation and visitor areas. For forest resilience, tribal knowledge integration and partnerships, forest health and pest management, and sustainable timber products and recreation economy. Under social and cultural well-being, strategies include culturally tailored communication, inclusive climate adaptation overall, public health resilience, and inclusive leadership and community co-governance. And then the last 2 goals, water security strategies include water quality and monitoring improvement, water supply infrastructure and emergency coordination, and water conservation and drought resilience for the most vulnerable populations. And then lastly, for wetland integrity, existing wetland programs and nature-based solutions for flood control and stormwater management. So I will not be going through all of the actions in the plan, but each strategy does contain several actions with additional details for implementation that I described a couple slides ago. The actions fall into 5 different categories to ensure resilience is integrated into county plans, operations, infrastructure projects, and coordination activities. The 5 types include programmatic, which aim to expand or create new programs, activities, and initiatives. Plans and regulations, to develop or revise policies, plans, regulations, and guidelines. Capital improvement or infrastructure projects to address physical, functional deficiencies and the needs in the built and natural environment. education, outreach, and coordination, which aim to initiate or expand partnerships and relationships, communicate and share information, and build overall awareness. And then evaluation, to improve feedback, input, and data and overall information, or conduct further or new analyses. As far as next steps, a repeat of the one of the first slides in the PowerPoint. It is county staff's recommendation for the Planning Commission to recommend the Board of Supervisors approve the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. The project team is planning to attend the Board of Supervisors hearing next week on January 13th. And because this plan was developed in partnership with the cities, the project team will also be attending the Clear Lake City Council hearing on January 15th and the Lakeport City Council hearing on January 20th. So with that, that does conclude my presentation. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and county staff and us on the project team are available for any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Commission, do you guys have any questions on the presentation?
I have some comments, but I don't know if that's what is being sought here or not.
I just have a question on something that was presented. The vulnerability survey that was put out, how many responses did you get from that?
151.
And how was that publicized?
It was on the Lake County 2050 site, and we promoted it also at several events that we attended.
Okay.
And an email blast went out as well.
Another question on the economic diversity, on the list of agencies or groups that were involved with the economic diversity. I didn't see the Farm Bureau on there. Were they involved or consulted or participating in the development of this plan?
The Farm Bureau participated in an agricultural-based meeting that had the same questions.
When was that meeting? Remind me, please.
Maybe Jacqueline could find it in our notes quickly. I don't have it in front of me, but it was the first one we did of that group of stakeholder meetings. So most of those occurred in September, but that one might have happened in August or early September.
Of 25?
Yes. I attended myself, so I know that it happened.
I was
have
here
a
too,
memory of that.
and I remember Rebecca. Rebecca attended that meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. And just a general, a lot of addressing of fire issues. One of the things that we've talked about a lot in this committee around various projects is the issue with roads. I didn't notice that right off. And I know that's under the roads plan, which I know is under revision, and but is there a connection or a reference to that in order to do a lot of these fire mitigation things and be responsive for fires, there needs to be a really good solid plan to improve our county road situation?
Jacqueline, I'm going to let you take that one. I believe we do have an action included.
Yes, we do have an action kind of related to roadways and evacuation. I do want to just mention that in the general plan update, it does include an evacuation study and an update to the health and safety element, which has more specific policies and actions related to evacuation and roadway improvement for wildfire safety.
Okay, thank you. And then help me remember too, is this the first time we've seen this in its entirety? The Planning
Correct.
Commission. I'm just a little wary of the presentation, which was actually very good, very, very thorough, to then now we give our thumbs up or not on putting this forward. It's hard when we have a big project or a plan in front of us, and it's, here it is, take a look, and now decide. I would like the process to be as here it is, look at it, absorb it, digest it, come back, and then vote on it again. I understand you're on a timeline, but the process is it doesn't give me very good comfort in feeling like I really thoroughly understand that. I would like to even have a copy of that presentation and go back and look at it again, because there are lots of good things in there, the goals, the objectives, and all that kind of thing. And I may have questions about it, but I haven't had enough time to have my poor little brain really get it all. So I have a bit of a concern of being requested to give a final thumbs up vote to move this along the process. So,
If I may, I view the Planning Commission evaluation of this as an opportunity to discuss it. And I have a number of comments to make, and I would hope that those would somehow be absorbed or evaluated by the people who are actually on the ground doing the work here. But most of my comments, I think I want to make in order to initiate a discussion. So that's my comprehension of the process, and it seems like a good one to me. So,
my wonderment is, will we have enough time for the discussion? Because we have other things on our agenda to get a good in-depth discussion in order to get our feet well planted in this, and then in order to make the decision today. That was my concern. I think that we ought to have a conversation because there's lots of meat in here to discuss.
yeah, I spent many hours reading it in the last 3 days, and I'd like to go ahead and get started on that discussion and see how long. And if it drags on too long, maybe we can kick it down the road a little bit, if that's okay with everybody else.
Before discussion, would you be okay if we open it up to public comment first? And then once we bring it back, we can have that discussion.
That sounds great.
That being said, staff, did you guys have anything else to add?
Not at this time.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open up public comment for this item. If you are in the Zoom room, please raise your hand and we can get you unmuted. If anyone in the chambers, please come to the podium. I'll take chambers first. And please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Happy New Year, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Margot Kambara. I offer the following observations and suggestions on 3 topics regarding the Climate Adaptation Plan. First, flooding. Recent extreme rainstorms brought the return of perennial flooding to Lake County, for example, parts of Scotts Valley. I respectfully suggest that the Climate Adaptation Plan section on flooding be revised to be less generic in its actions and include lessons learned from recent flooding. Board of Supervisors Chair and District 4 Supervisor Rasmussen went to Scotts Valley yesterday to view the flooding situation. On Monday, a Scotts Valley resident informed me that the locking or unlocking of gates managed by Lake County Water Resources Department may have contributed to flooding. A lesson learned could be to build robust procedural documentation and training regarding water management and flood control as a means to minimize the loss of institutional memory and turnover of experienced staff. Second topic, greater resilience and groundwater security. The Climate Adaptation Plan prompts proactive water security measures. South County and High Valley in District 3 are no strangers to wells going dry. Lake County's Big Valley groundwater basin is subject to state monitoring. Lake County Board of Supervisors Chair Rasmussen commented a few months ago that if the county's groundwater is not managed well, the state can step in again. It is in Lake County's best interest to manage its resources well, especially groundwater. The following suggestions may get us to groundwater security and sustainability. It would be great to see these in the plan. 1, promote smart and sustainable use of water in ag and development. 2, promote conservation, drought management in preparation for drought and use of technology to conserve water. 3, review discretionary use permit applications for smart and sustainable use of water. For example, revise county ordinances and regulations to make permittees accountable for water usage estimates. Be aligned with suggestions I'm sorry, aligning with these suggestions is a planning commissioner's interest in reviewing annual reports for permitted projects for compliance with conditions of use. And finally, accountability, good management, and maximum effectiveness. For maximum effectiveness, the CAP needs identified metrics for goals, due dates, and responsible individuals for the goal. This action promotes accountability and reflects good management. Without these measures, CAP is an attractive document with limited utility. And I appreciate Commissioner Zoller's comments, and I hope that your commission will have the time or take the time to have that discussion that Commissioner Field suggests. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else in the chambers wishing to speak on this topic? Do we have anybody in Zoom? Okay, I'm gonna give a couple more seconds here. All right, so seeing no more hands in the chambers or in Zoom, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. I know that we have some discussions, some topics.
I'll go ahead and get started. In the introduction, there are descriptions of regions that I felt were inaccurate. There was no mention of pears. And I wonder whether the Ag Commissioner was consulted on this. What were the acreages of each crop? Cattle, sheep, there's a lot of other things in agriculture going on. Does anyone have anything to add, or should I go to the next one?
I just have a point of just our process here. We have a group here that was scheduled for 9:20. It might be more prudent not to put a little time out on this and then complete this process, because our conversation may go long, and it might be an idea that we, since this is the only other item that we have as far
I
as.
agree that it was an unfortunate setting of the agenda, considering this could take hours. I would be in favor of shifting things if it's okay with everybody else.
If it's up to the discretion of the chair, it's fine to continue this item to later in the day and take up the other item.
Okay, that would be a good idea if it doesn't intervene with staff returning or
We're here all day.
their time. Okay, all right.
We are at your convenience.
Okay, so with that being said, I'll take a motion.
Go ahead. Just, I move that we alter our agenda and we take 6B, and at the conclusion of 6B, we return to the conversation for the 6A for the Lake County Climate Adoption Plan.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None, and the motion passes with one absent.
Chair Chavez, if it's okay, could we take a quick break?
Sure, 10 minutes is fine.
5 minutes is fine.
Okay, we'll do a 5-minute break. It's
Thank you.
9:40, so we'll be back at 9:45. All right, welcome back. It is 9:46. We're going to go ahead and take on our item 6B, our 9:20 a.m. public hearing, consideration of proposed major use permit PL 25-13, UP 21-15, and mitigated negative declaration IS 21-16 for commercial cannabis cultivation of 19.6 acres of outdoor canopy and type 13 distributor, self-transport only. The applicant is Rancho Lake LLC. The location is 19955, 19986, 20110, and 22222 Grange Road in Middletown. The APNs are 014-290-08, 014-300-02, 03, and 04. Continued from May 9th, 2024, November 11th, 2025, and December 11th, 2025. Whew. Staff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mary Claybon, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. This morning, as just mentioned, is consideration of PL 25-13 for Rancho Lake LLC. It should be noted that green sheets have been submitted, including agency comment from Lake Office of Emergency Services, and that was provided to the commission via email. The project Rancho Lake LLC PL 25-13 has been scheduled for hearing 4 times with this determination body. On May 9th, 2024, there was a lack of quorum within the Planning Commission. The project was rescheduled with legal notice on November 11th, 2025. At that hearing, the applicant requested a continuance after 2 commissioners had departed from that hearing. The project was rescheduled to a date and time certain on December 11th, 2025. And at that time, concerns were raised by the commission and addressed by staff, the applicant, the applicant's consultant, a certified hydrogeologist. The project was further continued to today's date. The concerns raised by the commission include impacts on Poudre Creek and Grange Road as an evacuation point. I'm going to refer specifically to the memo that was written for today's hearing. Impacts on Poudre Creek. The Planning Commission noted the Water Master was not consulted regarding this project. However, the Water Master typically provides guidance on matters related to water rights and surface water diversion, and this project does not involve either of those. Instead, it involves enrollment of the site with the California Water Quality Control Resource Board. Sorry, I messed that up. The California Water Resources Quality Control Board, and the submission of a notice of applicability dated October 31st, 2020 or prior, as required under the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, Article 27, Uses Generally Permitted. That has been provided to the department by the applicant. The project consultant and certified hydrogeologist provided information that Poudre Creek and the project's well do not have a direct interference, as further discussed within the hydrological analysis, which is attachment 5 to staff's report. According to the engineered site plans, which are attachment 1A, the irrigation well is located approximately 230 feet from the Poudre Creek channel, and the radius of pumping influence suggests that groundwater well use would not have a direct effect on stream flow at this distance. Moving on to Grange Road and evacuations. The commission inquired as to whether Grange Road is a designated evacuation route. Director Turner at that time responded that a recently approved Maha Gwinnett project, plan development project, includes enhancements to evacuation procedures, specifically incorporating access through Grange Road. Staff further clarified that a formal traffic study is not recommended for this project in accordance with CEQA guidelines. A formal request was submitted to the chief and captain of the South Lake Fire Protection District on December 19th, 2025. The following day, Chief Duncan did respond, and he deferred to Lake Office of Emergency Services. At the time that the memo was drafted, we had not received a comment. However, that has been received since from Lake OES manager Leah Sotolet. And without reading Leah's comment verbatim, I just want to kind of summarize what she had mentioned. Lake OES wished to clarify their role within this type of review. The green sheet has been made available to the commission, and OES does not conduct or certify evacuation capacity, clearance times, traffic modeling, and is not able to determine whether a specific project would or would not affect evacuation performance along Grange Road. OES does provide input related to operational awareness, preparedness, workplace safety, and particularly for projects located along evacuation routes or in hazard-prone areas. Evacuation routes are incident-specific, and while Grange Road may function as an evacuation route under certain conditions, how and when it is used depends on the type of incident, conditions at the time, and direction from the sheriff's office. There is no single fixed evacuation pattern that applies to all scenarios. She had further explained that on-site preparedness supports employee safety, ensuring that employees and seasonal workers understand our local hazards, know their zone identifiers, and are registered to receive official alerts helps support timely decision-making and reduces confusion during emergencies. Know Your Zone signage and alert registration are appropriate operational measures consistent with comments previously provided for special event zoning permits, and adding a condition of approval to this project is a recommendation of the Lake OES manager. With that, staff has prepared a potential condition of approval addressing Lake OES's comment should the commission wish to amend the conditions. The proposed condition reads as follows. Employees and seasonal workers should understand local hazards and receive official alerts for support during emergencies. The permittee shall post Know Your Zone evacuation information on the site, display a map showing zone identifiers and primary connections to major roadways, and provide information to employees about Lake County alerts, registration, aligned with best practices for workplace safety and preparedness. That concludes my presentation from the staff memorandum for today's item. And I'm available for any questions or comments.
Thank you. For, 'cause those were where we had left off at the last meeting. So you did a great job in clarifying those points of concerns. Commission, do you guys have any questions before we open up public comment?
Yeah, my main concern at this point is the setbacks, and my understanding is what are the legal setbacks at this point? What is required? Is it 200 feet per house?
So setbacks, yes, from off-site residences are currently within Article 27, 200 feet from off-site residences, and this project does exceed those requirements.
Yeah, so I feel that they should be 10 times that, but I am not on the Board of Supervisors, so I'm not making that rule. So I think that it does comply then, so I have no argument.
Just clarifying, is that from, that's to the property line, is that correct? Or to the project?
So there are multiple setbacks that are defined within Article 27 for commercial cannabis operations. There is a requirement for a 100-foot setback from the property line in which the cultivation is occurring. Additionally, there's a 200-foot setback from any off-site residences.
Thank you.
Since we're talking setbacks, I did want to mention that, and I'm sure that my fellow commissioners have looked through the information as well, but just for the public to know that on site, there were letters that were received over the course of the time of this project from the public and from entities both for the project and opposed to the project. There was several people from the Hidden Valley community also that had responded, and I was wondering what is the project setback from the Hidden Valley Lake community boundary?
There is a 1,000-foot setback from all community growth boundaries, Hidden Valley Lake included. And this project does meet that setback.
I'm good with hearing public input and then continuing.
Yeah, I'd like to hear public input.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open up public input for this item. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes. Be sure to state your first and last name for the record. And we'll also take a look in the Zoom room to see if there's any hands, but we'll take chambers first.
My name's Peter Lucchetti, and I'm the adjacent property owner. I think you're already familiar with me. It's the 21333 Grange Road, 276 Ranch LLC address. In reference to the 2 items that were just discussed, the impact on Pewter Creek, I just want to point out that we have hydrological analysis from GHT Resources. Brian Crawford, who's the hydrologist for the Hidden Valley Lake Community Services District, as well as ourselves, contradicting the conclusions of the hydrologist from the applicant. So I think there's a lot of issues here. I don't have enough time in 3 minutes to go over them all. I've highlighted them in a letter to you several times, including update yesterday. Grange Road evacuations. Under CEQA, you have to look at combined impacts, and they haven't looked at combined impacts. And certainly this was just reinforced by the information you were provided. There's an enormous potential combined impact from the Guanac Valley Resort. So to say it's just a matter of evacuating people who are farming there is not accurate. Plus, we live there and are in residence there. We have people in residence there that have to be included in that analysis. So it needs to be a fully combined, comprehensive analysis. And finally, I'll just summarize. I don't have time to go through the whole PowerPoint. I sent you a PowerPoint, but I'll just summarize a couple of key issues from the PowerPoint as long as I have time left. I've been very clear about the water issue. It's not a complete analysis, neither against our water rights or against the groundwater issues. Their analysis doesn't even consider our groundwater use. The second was odor control. They introduced evidence at the last meeting, which was not supposed to be introduced, in my opinion, in their presentation. It should have been provided before that, indicating what impacts would be for 1 acre, but they're talking about close to 20 acres, just a little bit short of 20 acres. So it's 20 times the impact. They haven't really provided an analysis that addresses that. As far as the biological survey is concerned, under CEQA, the biological survey is supposed to be good within 2 years, and it's over 4 years old. There's been a significant drought in that time period. It really hasn't addressed the biological conditions. I've already commented on emergency access and evaluation risk. We went through the Valley Fire ourselves. I've been there, I've seen it. These are significant issues. We've previously commented on the idea of drift from pesticides. There's been a lot of discussion about that, a part of the applicant. All I'm saying at this point is I don't think it's been resolved. And if you look at the FPZ guidelines, which we're not eligible for, but if you look at the county's own FPZ guidelines, when they talk about sensitive projects and sensitive things, it's 1,000 feet. It's not 100 feet, it's not 10 feet, it's not 200 feet, it's 1,000 feet. To be clear, that does not apply to us, but I think that's an unfair application of a rule in the county. I'm pursuing that idea separately. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
want to say one more thing, if my time's not up. I just want to remind everybody that we're a 56-year operator, never missed a year of farming, organic beef producer in Lake County. Never missed a year of farming.
Thank you for your comment. Cool.
That's all right. Sorry about that.
Charles Morris, Santa Elena Creek United. We were a group that was put together by one of the former supervisors, Helen Whitney. And we all fought. I mean, I was a young guy with 2 children, and I had a $2 million lawsuit against me from Solano County for water. This is a serious water issue. Nowhere is it mentioned that you guys are talking to Solano County about this, okay? And I would say you should have this. I've been up here several times and talked about water security and water. But it's Sacramento County Superior Court case 515766. I personally take it very seriously because my neighbors, the guy who handed me the job, he was the Environmentalist of the Year in 2017. And he said, Charlie, people are going to try to play games with the water, and nobody else wants the job, so guess who gets it? You. And so I follow the rules, and I expect everybody else to. But this is set up in such a way so that you verify it. If you ignore it, you're screwing everybody, okay? There's a lot of water security issues. Every drop of that water goes to the U.S. Air Force. There's a lot of things that we can't control. As far as access and fires, it's horrendous what we're thinking about. Anybody can cross that property on the creek, but they cannot go onto his land. We have gates that you can't go through. You have, you have serious fire issues and everything else. It's just horrendous that we're just going to ignore this so that we can grow weed. I think growing weed is fine, but we can't just ignore what has had to happen. Let's see. The access to the creek is terrible. I've encouraged anybody that can to go down the creek, see if there's anything that's being done. There's no I don't think anybody's looking at the fact that, you know, you can have riparian rights, but you can abuse them by using them for other things other than, you know, household water for what you need for yourself. And in the past, I've gone ahead and made aware, because of the MAHA project to Congressman Mike Thompson and the U.S. Air Force, that this is a seriously sensitive area, not just environmentally, but to our government and our country, where, you know, we are really in a bad space internationally, and this little basin is, you know, feeding 80 to 90% of all the water to the Pacific Theater. You know, you can't deny the fact that when somebody fills up a bottle of water and puts it on an aircraft that goes to someplace horrible where our adversaries are, that that water is safe. And so we have to look at this one with more scrutiny than other places, because we have a higher responsibility, not just to us, that everybody on that wall out there, every soldier from this county has ever gone there. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that these folks are going to do that, but I think that to ignore this and not look at the big picture is more than we can do. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any hands in the Zoom room? Okay, we have someone in chambers first, and then we'll take the hand. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Margot Kambara. This project has the same issues that the Planning Commissioner found problematic in other major use permit applications. Two specifically. First is water availability. Second is wildfire, road safety, 4290, public resource code compliance. Specifically, these issues surface in the hearings for Nina Star project in the Middletown area. And your commission decided that that project did not meet requirements, and that project was not granted a permit. For this project, CDD proposes hazard mitigation for wildfire road safety. That mitigation applied to employees. That did not apply to residents that use Grange Road. That did not apply to Hidden Valley or other community members who may have to use Grange Road as a alternate emergency evacuation route. That's only evacuation. What hasn't been addressed is, what about emergency access? So there are significant issues that are still outstanding, and there are still that still need to be ironed out to protect the community. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to take the hand in the Zoom room, and then we'll come back to chambers. All right, we got two hands in the Zoom room. All right, we'll take the first hand. Please state your first and last name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. What was the name on that? Okay, Angela or guest. Just please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes. Would you double check, make sure you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
There we go. We can hear you now.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Angela Amaral. I appreciate Ms. Claiborne summarizing the response from Cal OES, but as it wasn't uploaded for public review before this hearing and was only summarized, is there a way that you can show it on the screen so that the public can see the letter themselves, unless it wants to be read in full into the record? Thank you.
If we can get that on the screen while we continue with public comment, that'd be great. For people on Zoom, yeah. And then I have a copy here if we want to hand this out to, or there's copies of that too? Okay.
Maybe we could just provide a link to the meeting calendar where those comments can be accessed.
We don't typically upload green sheets prior to the meeting.
Yeah, because they usually come in like last minute, so it's hard to get them uploaded. But okay, so they are available here on Chambers on the wall. If anyone does wish to get a copy, and then we'll see what we can do about getting that on, sharing it on the screen here in a second while we continue with public comment. So I did have another hand in the Zoom room, so we'll go ahead and take that hand. Donna, please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Anna Makowitz from Clear Lake Oaks. I just wanted to reiterate what was mentioned earlier, that the CEQA does require recent biological surveys and studies, and this is old. A lot of the species of flora and fauna have been taken off sensitive species lists or even in the endangered species list, and others that weren't even mentioned have been added since this was done. So thank you for considering updating it because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And can we get a verification from staff about that regarding the CEQA or biological study requirements?
So that, as far as the CEQA guidelines themselves, there is not a 2-year requirement that we're aware of. Generally speaking, I know with some case law that has been, gone through the process, the general rule sometimes maybe 5 years for technical studies, but it really just depends on the conditions of the site. Has anything changed dramatically in the environment? Has anything changed enough with the project to result in the need for additional surveys? This project was surveyed in, I believe, 3 times. I can get those dates for the commission if that's helpful, but the last botanical survey was in 2021. And again, nothing has changed on the site. It was previously used for agriculture in a sort of an ag field with grass for the most part. So we determined that an additional survey was not needed.
Thank you. All right. So we'll take the hands in chamber. Please say your first and last name, and you have 3 minutes.
Happy New Year, Commissioners. Tom Lasik. I just wanted to point a couple of things real quick. First is, I don't think the issues that were brought up in December have really been sufficiently resolved here. Not much has changed. You still have the issue with Poudre Creek. You still have the issue with the biologicals assessment. You still have the issue with the odor. You still have the issue with Grange Road. Specific to Grange Road and to the water items, the CEQA requires that if the substantial evidence that a fair arguments have made that a EIR is required, even if there's substantial evidence that the fair argument is made that it's not required, the EIR is required. You have conflicting hydrological surveys that are performed. That alone suggests an EIR is required. You have an OES when a traffic study is supposed to be done, and they basically kick the can. We're not the ones to do it, or go see OES. It's not CAL FIRE. They did not say that it doesn't need to be done. They just said they weren't the ones to do it. The odor is still an issue. The other items they just haven't been addressed. The impact to the cumulative effects, the impact to the Luccheti's ranch is it's an organic ranch. You've got the risks of overspray. None of the things that have been brought up as concerns have been discussed or mitigated or resolved based on what's happened in the last month. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Trey Sherrill. I'm consultant for the applicant. I just wanted to make myself available if you had any questions regarding the project at this time.
I did have a quick question. So the entire property currently, as was stated from staff, continues to be just bare land. Is that correct? Like grass or grazing?
Grazing is occurring across most of the property
And there's,
and the project site at this time.
okay, what animals are on the site?
I know there's cows. I've seen them. Are there just
Cattle?
cows? Okay.
Okay, and it'll continue to be cattle even with the operation of the cannabis cultivation?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that was just my question, to see what other uses were going to be going on simultaneously on the property while the project was in operation. So,
Yes, yes, sir. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. The field was previously used as orchard, alfalfa farming, and as of right now, it's being used for grazing, and the fields will continue to be used for grazing. There's large buffers, so there'll be plenty of area around the proposed cultivation area where cattle grazing will still occur.
thank you. And those are just my comments.
Yeah, also, I should clarify, although I said additional surveys were deemed to not be necessary for the preliminary, the bioanalysis, there are pre-construction surveys included as mitigation. Bio 1 through 4 requires pre-construction surveys for critters, and also Bio 5 for bird nesting surveys prior to construction. So it's not like nothing will be done moving forward. Just wanted to clarify that. I also do have the comment ready to share if Sam is able to promote me to a panelist on Zoom. And then the last thing I just wanted to clarify is the CEQA guidelines requirements when looking at transportation and traffic. They begin on page 53 of the PDF of the initial study, if anyone has that pulled up. But I just always have to ask myself even and remind myself what are the CEQA questions that they're actually asking to be analyzed. So the first one is if the project would conflict with the program plan or ordinance or policy addressing circulation system, including transit, roadway, bicycle, or pedestrian facilities. Secondly, it's for a land use project, would the project conflict with or be inconsistent with CEQA guidelines? It lists a guidelines section related. I'll get into that in a minute. And then for a transportation project, which this is not, that would be like actual transportation projects that the county's doing, for example. So that one's not applicable. And then section D, or criterion D, is substantially increase hazards due to geometric design features like sharp curves, dangerous intersections, or incompatible uses. That is for projects that actually are changing the road system. And then lastly, result in inadequate emergency access, which seems to be the most applicable to some of the concerns that have been raised. So within the initial study, we do address that, and we rely on CEQA guidelines section 15064.3, which gets into vehicle miles traveled, which is what CEQA requires a project to be analyzed against. And what we rely on are the OPR, VMT traffic calculations that they provide as guidance, since we do not have our own thresholds that have been adopted, but these have been adopted at the state level, or at least widely used among CEQA practitioners. And typically, a project can be what's called screened out of needing further review if it results in daily traffic trips of 110 vehicle trips or less. In this case, the project would result in 24 traffic trips, which, frankly, is just kind of inconsequential on the CEQA guidelines. I understand for folks living in the project, vicinity, I'm not trying to diminish any of those concerns. But as far as the CEQA requirements, and when you get into looking at impacts to the larger transportation system, it's very minimal for this project. So just wanted to clarify that, if that's helpful at all for the commission. And then I can see if I can raise as a panelist here and read that comment. I still don't see that I'm able to share screen. Sam, am I a panelist? I should be listed as myself there. I just snuck on. Thank you. There we go. I'm going to share my screen. go back. All right, I believe everybody can see that. I'll zoom in a little bit. Chair, would you prefer that I read that or just leave it up for a couple minutes?
I think we can just leave it up for now.
Okay.
Because we already got a summary, which was a really good summary. And yeah, it was just, we can just leave it up there for now.
Zoom people will tell us if I can't read it.
Yeah.
We've already read it, so.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other hands in the Zoom room? No more hands in the Zoom room. Anyone else in the chambers wish to speak? Go ahead. Sure.
I'd like to make a comment based on what Planner Michelle Iris just mentioned on the VMTs. That document is actually being misapplied. The OPR that is referencing for VMTs is actually meant for carbon footprint, for greenhouse gas emissions, for meeting our climate change goals. It's not for traffic safety. In fact, that OPR makes it very clear that the only time it actually mentions traffic safety is when it says in that OPR, do not use this document as a reference for traffic safety. Caltrans has other documentation that suggests how to properly use VMTs and not to use it in the form that this was done, and it's not to be used as a substitute for traffic safety. The problem is that for the last 150 permits, this boilerplate language has been used each and every time to not do its proper traffic safety analysis. And subsequent, Caltrans has put out other publications that shows how to properly use VMTs. And so they're relying on the wrong document for the wrong way for the wrong reason. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Sure, yeah. Already opened it.
I forgot to speak on this. When it comes to odor and air control, we've had a problem in this area for a very long time. Calpine has had a big problem with rotten egg gas, and they, being a multi-million-dollar company, they went through a whole process of stopping it, what means that basically before anything comes out the smokestack, any smells, it's purified before it goes out, and it was solved. Okay. Now, when it comes to marijuana and odor, it's difficult in that entire area. I don't. How do I say? Because of the way the hills are designed, you're always going to have a higher degree of odor there than anywhere else, and it is scenic Lake County. My other point is, if you look at the dynamics, I mean, I've talked to a lot of firefighters and water source people and fish and game people. It's like once you start putting it into this area, we're going to end up being like Weaverville, California, where your eyes are burning when you're driving down the street. So it's something to take into consideration and not dismiss. It's not like the wine industry when you go through the Napa Valley and you smell a Bordeaux. It smells like a skunk, and it doesn't make a good impression. So I would like to see the county or somebody start trying to find ways to solve this rather than ignore it. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comment. All right, one last look in the chambers before we close public comment. No hands in the Zoom room either. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or action.
Okay. Because this is in District 1, and I am the District 1 Planning Commissioner, if you don't mind, Chair, I'd like to go first. And Chair and I have quite a few thoughts and statements to share. So if that's okay with you,
Sure,
Chair?
of course.
Okay. First off, in full respect, of course, of the staff and all the time and energy you've put into this project, as well as the applicant and the members of the public, I do want to express that I was very frustrated after the last hearing. For me, the hearing felt more like an appeal hearing than it did an actual project hearing. So, and I'm not going to go into detail or specifics about that, but I just want to make that statement. Of course, as you can tell, this project is difficult for us, and part of it is, as I think many people know, that the general plan and the area plans are being updated, and currently, cannabis is not well incorporated into the policies and objectives in our general plan and area plan. So we end up with these situations that can be quite difficult. The other thing that sadly, or happily, I know both the applicant and the neighbor that is the main concern with this project. And I respect both of you. So we're acquaintances, I would say, and we've worked on various different projects together over the years. And what's sad about it is that, unfortunately, regardless of what happens here today, and perhaps I shouldn't be predicting this, but I sadly believe that this is going to end up in appeal. So, and I wish things were different. So, but with that said, I do have some reservations about the project. So in regard to the aesthetics of the project in this particular area, on ag land, excuse me for just a moment. But on ag land and the open space that this area is, the aesthetics to have, and I think this is something we need to consider in the future, as far as to have fencing listed as one of the things that will accommodate and take care of the aesthetics of a project is, I don't know if that's as aesthetically pleasing. We had a project before us not too long ago that this body approved, where the applicant and the neighbor were able to communicate together, and they came up with the conclusion of putting in a vegetative screen, for that aesthetic, and also for, I think, odor, for visual and for odor control. So the other issue, of course, as many have brought up, and has been a continual concern with cannabis in certain areas, is the odor. And I think that we've all come to the understanding that for outdoor cultivation, one of the only ways to really work with the odor is by additional setbacks. I don't know if that's actually possible with this project or not. In regard to the roads, I'm not overly concerned with that. Sadly, Grange Road is another one of those, our Lake County roads, that falls below standard. It is maintained by the county, and hopefully one day we'll have the funds to improve that situation and really improve Grange Road, as well as many other roads in the area. My main concern, which I think I stated in the December 11th meeting and continues to be my main concern, is Poudre Creek. We have before us, again, with the applicant and the neighbor, we have two different hydrology reports, or reports from qualified individuals that have differing points of view. From information that I have and from my own personal experience, again, as I stated in the December 11th meeting, the 6-hour test I do not think is appropriate or efficient to give a full analysis of the situation and the potential impact on Poudre Creek. Additionally, the test was done in July. In reading through the reports, and I did take time to thoroughly read through the reports, I did discover that there was a test also done on March 11th. That again was a 6-hour test, but was done with a 100 gallon per minute submersible pump. And then there was another test that was done in July. But nonetheless, both of those tests are not done during the crucial, critical time of the year when and I believe what would be the peak season of the growing season, the July, August, September months, when the weather is hot, and the plants are demanding more. And I believe, if I'm correct, and I can be corrected, of course, but I believe at that point the pumping would increase to, according to the project management plan, the pumping would increase in the amount from 75,000 gallons to 90,000 gallons. So I think that that's when the test needs to be done. And again, from my experience and my information, a more appropriate test would be 24 to 72 hours. I believe in the hydrology report that was submitted on behalf of Peter Lucchetti. GHD had recommended, I think it was 24 to 48 hours, but something more than a 6-hour test and something that's done at the appropriate seasonal time. Other than that, so that's one of my main concerns as far as, because I do not feel like I can approve this project at this point in time and possibly put the Puda Creek stream in jeopardy. That's a public resource, public trust resource that needs to be protected for the welfare of the public. A few other comments that I have is, and I believe I stated this during the December meeting as well, with the drought management plan, that's no fault of the applicants. That's a drought management plan. I would very much like to see staff, us, the county, as planning commissioners, beef up that drought management plan and those expectations. There are things that are listed on there that actually it's written as may be implemented in case of a drought emergency was declared. And there are simple things like irrigate only in the early morning hours or before sunset. Cover the soil and drip lines to reduce evaporation. Add soil amendments to retain and conserve water. These are things that we in the farming community, whether we're cannabis or any other operation, should be doing on a regular basis, not under a may do in case a declared drought emergency is called. So I just request that we do that. And I think those are basically my comments, but basically at this point in time, I really have difficulty with making the findings, primarily finding number 1 and 5 in the staff report. This is the good and the bad as we're again trying to incorporate cannabis into the agricultural community. I'm not sure, I think one of the members of the public had brought up the Nina Star project as well. There are certain areas that are zoned ag that perhaps maybe aren't actually appropriate for cannabis or need to be looked at in a different way. And perhaps, I'm just going to throw this out there with the review of our general plan, perhaps we also need to be looking at a different classification of ag zoned properties, better identifying where cannabis would actually fit on agriculturally zoned properties. And I only say that because cannabis is very different between, you have grapes, pears, and walnuts, which are 3 of the main crops here in this area that are a long-term commitment when a farmer plants those types of crops. And then you have strawberries, fruits, and vegetables, and that's perhaps maybe a little bit closer to cannabis, which is an annual planted crop, but yet doesn't require as much infrastructure, so to speak, as cannabis. And what we're running into, I think, is that this particular crop does have a more industrial look to it. When we add on 5,000 gallon water tanks. And because, for better or for worse, and I will have to say that I'm not a proponent of fencing, so I would like to get to the day when we don't have to fence, when we don't have to put cannabis under such tight and scrutinous security. But fencing and these temporary structures that we're talking about are all things that change a typical agricultural crop into more of an industrial crop. And so those are my issues with what we're looking at here today. But primarily for this project, it's really, if I had better information about the water, the status of Puda Creek, if there was a better test done with the water, that the well is at 230 feet, approximately 230 feet from Puda Creek, and I believe that the area of influence around that was listed in I believe it was in the project management report, that the influence extends to 220 feet. So it's just a little bit too close, again, to a public trust resource for me, when I believe that out front, we could assure that we're going to have a less than significant impact on Puda Creek. Thank you.
If I can just, before I forget, I wanted to address a couple things that Commissioner Rosenthal brought up. If it's appropriate, I'd like to ask the applicant, wasn't there a well completion done? And wasn't that 24 hours? Or am I remembering wrong?
Excuse me, Trey Sherrill, consultant for the applicant. There was a 2-hour pump test done immediately following drilling of the well. As mentioned, there was a 6-hour pump test done with a smaller pump that can only produce 100 gallons a minute done in March. And we came back with a larger pump in July and did a 6-hour pump test at 355 gallons a minute. And the reason why we thought that was sufficient is that at 355 gallons a minute, the peak daily amount of water that the project would need would take a little over 4 hours to do, and so we go to 6, and so that's the maximum that we would see, that we theoretically could see the project pumping for, or is it above the max?
Okay, thank you. I remember, I was sitting here nodding while you were speaking, and I remembered that I had that issue resolved in my head, so thank you. And then the other question, just in response to Commissioner Rosenthal's bringing it up, was the fencing, because I was concerned about that as well. And as I recall, the only fencing is going to be around the 19 acres, correct? None of the rest of the property is going to be fenced?
Yes, ma'am, and we agree. The fencing, we would like to get away from it, but it is a requirement of the ordinance, so we have to comply with the rules of the county.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you go ahead.
I just have a question about the water. This is the second time that the Solano County issue has been brought forward, and I know that for Clear Lake, a lot of the Clear Lake water is owned by Yolo County. So can I just have a clarification about Puda Creek and the water? Has that been adjudicated, and that Solano County owns all of Puda Creek water, some of it? Could you help clarify that, since water's been discussed?
Puda Creek.
Public comment is
Puda
closed,
Creek
sir.
is fully adjudicated.
But
Was that question to?
I
the
just
gentleman?
need the question answered. I don't know.
You don't want me to answer the question?
No.
I know the answer to the question.
Okay, I need somebody to answer the question.
Puda
Okay,
Creek,
if you're asking the question, sure.
Pardon me?
If you're gonna ask him the question, I thought you were referring to the other guy. Down
Oh,
there.
no, there's,
answer the question if you want me to.
I just need the question answered, whomever is the person who can do that.
or not?
That'd be fine, yes, thank you.
Yes, if she's asking you the question, yes.
Puda Creek was fully adjudicated in a lawsuit with Solano County many, many decades ago. There was an allocation out of the lawsuit for Lake County. And to my knowledge, and others in the room can confirm it, That allocation for Lake County as part of the settlement has been fully applied for and being used by people. So there's nothing left in the allocation.
Did you just say nothing left in the allocation? Is that what you said?
The allocation that was allotted to Lake County in the lawsuit over several years was subscribed to. It's fully subscribed.
And owned by Solano County.
Well, no. It's Solano County had a lawsuit. Substantial portion of the water out of this watershed goes to Solano County and Lake Berryessa through the dam that was built in the Great Depression. It's benefiting when you drive down the highway by UC Davis and you go down to Vallejo. That's where that water is being used in agriculture and at the Air Force at the airfield. But it's really important, there was an allocation in the agreement, the settlement agreement, to Lake County. There was some water allocated to Lake County. And then people came along after the lawsuit and they signed up for it. So it was allocated to them and it's fully allocated.
And we're talking surface water, correct?
Let me speak
Yeah.
in layman's terms.
And
Please come to the podium, sir.
It's just based on good stewardship.
And state your first and last name one more time.
Charles Morris. It's based on stewardship, and basically what it says is we're all expected to be good stewards of the water because going back to 1860, before California was a state, we were able to win the lawsuit based on Spanish law, and basically Spanish law says you can use the water responsibly. You cannot dam the water, and you have to allow the creek to flow. And that's the entire basin. That's everywhere. If you're diverting water in any kind of way, or if you're taking water, in some kind of illegal way, that's it. Now, when you read through this, and I think I said it earlier, section 3.3, it gets really clear on what to do. And in the end, it is like Yolo County. They own the water, but we're allowed to use it as we go because there's no water down here. It's, there's zero. In this whole area, it's really difficult to find water in the entire basin. And so Santa Elena Creek, it's specified in the Middletown area plan that all the creeks and the responsibilities we have. So, it's in the area plan, the county has said that, yeah, we're aware of this. But in reality, it does, Solano County has a say in it, in what's going on. And, what we want for the future is basically to be able to bring the salmon back. And we're going to have enough water to get them coming and going. We were the only basin that was basically connected to the ocean. We used to get a salmon run that came all the way up from Sassoon Bay. Right now, if we don't take care of this environment, we won't have it. And there's a real movement in the Native American community to see that happen. I've talked to the local tribe and I said, I need you and, to help us. So it's important. It's extremely important because it is and should be a nursery for wildlife. That's all I got.
Commissioners, if I may, just to give you a basic clarification, in the year 2000, after years of litigation, obviously, the Putah Creek Accord was entered into, and it established a number of things: environmental flows, agricultural and urban diversions, how the management of the particular body of water itself, and state oversight, and it provided authority over these diversions and uses and protection of Putah Creek through the Accord to the state oversight of the California State Water Resources Control Board and the Solano County Water Agency. So your commission doesn't have oversight of the Putah Creek diversions and water uses and things like that. You are tasked to look at the impacts of this project on the creek and water use through CEQA. You may also ask if the state Water Resources Control Board or Solano County Water Agency had provided comments related to the project itself and take those into consideration. But your commission does not regulate Putah Creek.
Oh, I didn't think we did. I just wanted to understand how it worked. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, the fact that we were able to discuss that, I think it's good to understand what about the waterways. But in the terms of this project, I mean, we're using well water as stated here in the property management report and the initial studies. So I don't see the issue with them saying that they're going to be diverting any of that water from the creek. So that's just, the radius of influence from the wells, that's something to consider. But water diversion is not proposed as stated in this project.
We've just had a lot of conversation about water and, wells near creeks and the impact. So I just wanted to understand that particular aspect of it. So thank you.
Commissioners, if I may. On page 8 of 18 within agency comment is the comment from the California Water Quality Control Resources Board. On page 8 of 18 of agency comments that are attachments to the staff report, there is a comment from the Water Board, and it reads, "The site is enrolled and working with me to submit all required documents. Thank you, Janae Freed," who is our contact with the Water Board.
And I just quickly wanted to add, just going back at the beginning, the proposed additional statement to be added to the condition of approval. I personally don't think that that's necessary. So for this project or for future projects, unless we're going to go into every single business and add that every project that comes before us, I think that that's something that's good management within a business, and they should be held accountable without county guiding them or telling them that they have to do that.
Okay, I have a couple comments. First of all, when we have two different hydrology reports, I think I've said this before, I think that we should be doing hydrogeology in-house. And in response to Mr. Morris, this is kind of a piecemeal approach to water management and odor management. My comment is that I think it's inappropriate to try to address these big issues in a piecemeal way. Having individual applicants bear the burden of these potentially huge issues seems unfair to me. And so what's right in front of us, we're looking at some really big issues, and this is a 19-acre project. I don't think it's fair to burden this project with all of these issues. And I wanted to respond to Mr. Lasik about the organic. I'm an organic grower myself. The standards for organic farming, there's distances. I think it's 25 feet. But my understanding is that cannabis standards exceed organic standards. So I'm not concerned about it for that reason. Those are all my comments. I'm ready to make a motion if we're done discussing it.
Yeah, we can entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
Did we talk about an amendment earlier? I think we did.
I did propose a potential amendment to the conditions of approval, and Commissioner Rosenthal said that she was not interested at that time, so it would be up to the commission as to
Could
whether
you remind me what it was?
to add the Know Your Zone mapping and have employees sign up for the Lake County alerts with Office
that's
of
right.
Emergency Services.
Okay, so I'm going to include that amendment. I move that the Planning Commission find that the potential impacts associated with this project can be mitigated to less than significant through the implementation of the Mitigated Negative Declaration PL 2513, prepared for Major Use Permit PL 2513 UP 2115 for commercial cannabis cultivation located at 19955 Grange Road, Middletown. Will not have a significant effect on the environment, and that the Planning Commission adopt initial PL 2513 IS 2116 with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 11th, 2025, and memorandum dated January 8th, 2026.
Excuse me, I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
All opposed?
No.
All right, 3 ayes, 1 no, and 1 absent. The motion passes.
I further move that the Planning Commission find the major use permit PL 2513 UP 2115 applied for by Rancho Lake LLC for the property located at 19955 Grange Road, Middletown, does meet the requirements of Section 51.4 and Article 27 of the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and that the major use permit be granted as amended based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the staff report dated December 11th, 2025, and memorandum dated January 8th, 2026.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
3 ayes, 1 no, and 1 absent. The motion passes. And the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-day calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th day following the Planning Commission's decision on this matter. Thank you.
So before we go on, Commissioner Field mentioned some issues that have come up a number of times when we have addressed projects. And I know that the cannabis ordinance is under renovation. Some of those issues are really substantial and important, and I wonder if we have any purvey to say that we would like to hold off approving or reviewing any other projects until those are in place, because it's a real tug and a pull for us to address some of these issues that have been on the table for a while. And I know that the general plan is being reviewed at the same time, but these piecemeal kinds of things that makes it very difficult for some good consistency, and I feel that perhaps for some good decision-making on our part when things are in such flux. And I don't know whether that's something that
Commissioners?
we have any purvey over or not, but
I think that's part of our job. So we're always going to have gray zones on various different topics, and that's part of what the Planning Commission's role is.
Commissioners, if I may,
go ahead.
the rules you apply are the rules that have been adopted already. Regardless of what you may be aware that is in the works, it is not in fact adopted, and it may never be adopted. So it's not, so decisions today cannot be made on what might come down the line in the future. And I'm not sure what what you mean by piecemealing.
And I totally understand, we can't say, okay, next month there'll be new rules, so we make a decision, hopefully, but is there a way that when we know that something is in progress, that we can wait till those things are, no, we can't.
No, the rules, the rules that apply are the ones that are currently adopted. Those are the rules, and part of the reason is because the public has an interest in being able to rely on the rules that have been adopted and being able to function under the rules that have been adopted and not being delayed or changed or even though they follow the rules as intended, we don't want the public to be penalized for or potentially appear to be penalized for potential rules down the line that might come or might not.
Right. I understand all that, it's just not very ideal.
It's a nice thought.
Yeah, I think it's
roll it out.
This merits consideration, but I'm not sure right now is the venue.
No, it just, and I understand rules and how they work, but.
All right. So we'll continue on where we left off when we moved to move item 6A to after 6B. So we'll continue.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chair, effectively what the commission did was table the item at the beginning of the meeting, so there would need to be a motion to bring the item from the table to be heard now. And may I request a 5-minute break?
10, 5?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do 10. We'll do a 10-minute break. It's 10:52, so we'll be back at 11:08.
And I don't want to do that. They're trash anyway. They're not worth keeping. Some of them are still.
All right. Welcome back. We'll continue with our Planning Commission meeting.
Anyway, you'll have to come over.
I am waiting for a motion to
We'll mull it.
take up an item that was tabled earlier today.
I move that we take up item 6B on our agenda.
Second.
Was that 6A?
Oh. Yeah, 6A.
Oh, excuse me, 6A, pardon me, 6A.
Second, 6A.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. And the item has been opened. So we left off, I believe we were going through some of the comments from the commission. Commissioner Field, I think you had.
Chair, if I heard you guys asking some questions about the process, so I'd be happy to clarify that we are looking for your recommendation to the board today for adoption, but you may do that recommendation with proposed revisions. And so, we did have this draft out for public review for 20 days, and we've received public comment on it, and we are hoping that this is very, very close to a final draft, but there is room for us to incorporate revisions from both the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, and both city councils into the final draft. So I encourage your discussion of it, and at the end of today, hoping that you guys will come with a recommendation with any revisions that you would like to see. Thank you.
I have some comments, but I'm not sure that they constitute recommendations to revise. So let me just go ahead and I'd like to hear any comments from my fellow commissioners about the issues that I found. And I'd like to point out that I missed the October 9th meeting in which this was presented. And I was disappointed that we did not have minutes for that meeting so that I could see what happened. The increased temperatures and increased precipitation, the records only go back to 1961. And I think it would be useful to look at other areas that have more extensive records. I felt that the definitions of drought and flooding and the things at the very beginning of each little section were kind of embarrassing. I think that everybody knows what flooding is and what a drought is. I mean, most 5-year-olds know the simple definitions. So I felt that we need to raise the level of the writing a little bit. The maps would be far more useful if they were interactive and more detailed. There was a lot of discussion, and those of us in Lake County who lived here during that time are aware, but there was some discussion about projecting the fire annual average acres burned. I think it would be very instructive to present a map showing historic fires and the acres that they burned and when in this document. There's a statement about homeowners insurance, and I want to say the page, but the page numbers didn't line up for me. They were off by 10. So, and I think that's just about the way that it was put on the interwebs. The statement about homeowners insurance, it seems obvious to me, but I think it would be appropriate to address the effect this is having on home values. Because my observation is that, for example, in the Rivieras, where it's almost impossible to get homeowners fire insurance, property values are declining. Air quality, this is something I'm willing to vote about. Prescribed burning to increase air quality, that seems ludicrous to me. there's got to be some alternative methods of reducing combustibles like chipping and composting. That's something I want to vote about to change. That's ridiculous. To do prescribed burning to improve air quality. I think that's about it for now. My main complaint about this document is that it identifies problems, but doesn't do anything to solve them. That's the nature of the document. I understand that. But I also like to comment that I noticed that a lot of the language does try to resolve the problem. So I thought that was just kind of interesting.
I guess one comment on that prescribed burning and land management section for under air quality. I think that comes into more into like land management, and obviously when prescribed burning happens, so that you don't have, they say you don't manage your land and then you get a huge fire that then, is uncontrolled and then causes, the lowering of the air quality, and then, everything that comes with the smoke affecting, certain communities or, other items that are described here. But I think it goes into that. I understand that it does sound, why would you prescribe burn? And then, of course, smoke is going to come out of that as well. But I think it goes into land management, that is one of the strategies that are used, for that.
Yeah,
reason.
I understand that. I just feel that there are alternatives that are more, that are better, chipping and composting, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just a question on, this is, I think it's fairly well laid out, and certainly on the various action items, it does go and delineate different things out. And one of them, of course, is cost. So adding up the cost of this is expensive. No, I know that was a bit of sarcasm because it's always expensive, but is there a strategy, is there a plan, or is this can't be certainly funded through the county budget? Is it going to be grant funded, or what is the strategy to hopefully implement some of these recommendations?
I think it's a multi-fold strategy: grants, county programs, collaboration with community-based organizations and NGOs. There's a lot of that work happening, a lot of partnering happening with the Resource Conservation District and Clerk and a variety of agencies, NCO doing home hardening. So the intent is to continue working through a lot of partnerships to try to implement as many of these actions as we can.
And is there a timeline as far as I don't want to say the most important, but maybe the most pressing? Is there a strategy for that accompanying this document?
I believe that in each of the actions, a timeline for that individual action has been called out. But as we work to wrap up the general plan and tie those threads through to the health and safety element and all of that, then the implementation will begin on all of those documents.
Because as your point is, there are a lot of these things that are woven into other various plans and projects. They weave together, they overlap, and
Correct.
So just to see that connectivity is important.
Yes, very important.
Thank you.
I think that's looking into that portion of the cost, because obviously we all want to know like what it's going to look like in terms of like funding, but also I think we can also look at that these are getting tackled by different jurisdictions, agencies, or cities. Would that also be creating more jobs? In order to meet these goals, sometimes you're going to have to hire specialists or create more work essentially for the staff of that agency that's supposed to do this thing. I think overall it's good that we're having this conversation and just the way it's supposed to look like and having the community involvement to tackle these issues. But in the end, it's also going to be creating a lot of jobs I can see. So it's just exciting to see how we can, because, make Lake County safer for everyone and just the development of it. I like to see development and the money actually being used for these things, because it's directly affecting, every single person that's living here. So being able to see that, I think it's something good, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation now about it. Do we have any other comments? We can open public comment. So we'll take a look in the Zoom room to see if anyone there wishes to speak. We'll just kind of get them ready, but we do have someone in chambers. Please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Happy New Year again. First of all, I want to thank the work that Shannon has done. I've been to a lot of these advisory councils, and she's been all over the map trying to get information, so that's really good. But the one thing I did want to maybe kind of speak to your concern about the prescribed burn, because I've, as Michelle might be aware, I'm trying to go through that myself right now. I think there's a distinction, and I agree with you to some degree. If you're just a suburban neighbor and you're putting a big pile of leaves, that should be mulch, that should be composted, that should be chipped. That's going to certainly degrade the air quality and not have a tangible benefit. There's better ways to do it. But I live on very rural land, which is Chaparral, for about over half my property. And Chaparral is designed to burn, and it's evolved and needs to burn in order to regenerate. So a lot of the seeds from creosote bush and buckbrush and things like that depend on fire. Prescribed burns actually does help the environment, and to your point, Chair Chavez, it's a little bit of pain now to avoid a massive, complete. When the Valley Fire and the Mendocino Complex fires were here, the entire sky was completely obscured. You couldn't see the sun. But managing it through what the tribes call good fire, those types of things I think are really important. I would like to see the county embrace that. Right now, the permit process is a little bit confusing. I think there are things we can do to embrace it. And I understand that some of these things were written years ago with different philosophies. So I think this is a really good opportunity to revisit that. There is a way that having good fire not only helps, resiliency, but it does result in a net aggregate effect of better air quality down the run. That's my comment. And again, I want to thank Shannon for showing up to all these meetings. All right, thank you.
I'd like to respond to that just briefly. I stand corrected. I recall now that redbud seeds, I believe, have to burn in order to grow. That may be remedied by boiling them. I'm not an expert in this, but.
All right, do we have any hands in the Zoom room? Okay, we'll take that first hand. Please state your first and last name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Betsy Kahn. I have submitted comments to the Planning Department about this particular document previous to this occasion. I was really grateful to hear the comment about the maps, because that is one of the common concerns that the public has with almost all of the documents that are being produced now by the Planning Department. The maps are difficult, even, in the presentations to the public, showing a map that is so hard to read and that is not zoomable or expandable. It makes it really hard for the public to say, yeah, I think that's a good idea over in this corner, or maybe you should move that over to the north on that side. It's just not useful. And that's very important. The other three comments I have are, there are many, many descriptions of situations and conditions in the county, but very little actual data. And in any case, there are no hyperlinks to the sources of the statements or bibliography of documents that are used to assert these positions or descriptions. And then the actual ties, as one of the commissioners was speaking about, the ties to the other related plans and how these things go together. We already have a significant investment of millions of dollars in our natural hazard mitigation plan, our community wildfire protection plan, and our soon-to-be the general plan updates and the local area plans. So while this may be suitable to meet a particular state criteria for a category called climate change adaptation, it's not substantive enough to make it helpful to the public to work with. What we see is the descriptions of how things are and how things should be. But as another commissioner commented, the connection to those priorities and the strategies that we need to develop to protect our natural resources that, as Tom was saying, we live in a very rural county. Trying to fix the county so it doesn't have the propensities for fire and flood is an impossible concept. So it would be good to have these things tied practically to what we need to do with our infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
I
All
second that.
right, do we have any more hands in the Zoom room? Okay, no more hands in the Zoom room. No more hands in the chambers. Sorry. So we'll bring it back to the commission.
I would like to just point out that in the end notes, there are more than 3 pages of documents that were referred to, 69 altogether, I believe.
Okay, well, I don't see any more discussion or questions, so I guess I'm looking for a motion. Should be in the memo. Second page, it wasn't printed out. I think we only got the first page.
So can staff provide us with a motion?
I'm happy to make one up if it's adequate, if Nicole is good with it. I move that we send this to the Board of Supervisors.
With a recommendation of approval.
I approve recommendation of approval to the Board of Supervisors, the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None, and 1 absent, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a chance that I could get the PowerPoint? I would like to share this just for informational purposes with the Ag Advisory Committee.
Absolutely. We can send that out to all the commissioners this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to item 7 for non-timed items, which there's nothing there. So we'll move on to department update.
Thank you. For today's department update, staff has actually compiled the statistics the Planning Commission wanted to hear about regarding our ongoing cannabis-related businesses. In 2025, we had 120 active approved projects. 28, not of these 120, but other 28 projects have expired due to 2 or more years of inactivity. And this page is going to be posted, and I'd be happy to send it to the Planning Commission as well. We have 2 retail sales that require use permits. There are other ones that are located in C1 that are used by right, and we don't have permits on those. We also have 2 processing or manufacturing facilities. We have 1 project currently pending BOS, an appeal for the Planning Commission revocation. That's Alvarez. And that has not yet gone to the board. Last year, there were 12 hearings for cannabis projects. 4, and that's just hearings. It was, some of the projects took multiple hearings. So 12 times, Planning Commission heard about cannabis projects. 4 of those projects were approved. 3 of them were denied. 1 is pending appeal to the board. We had 13 transfers of cannabis use permits. That just means the ownership of that permit has changed. Total active approved canopy is 417.95 acres. However, with the opt-outs and the reduced canopy, our best estimate of actual grown cannabis in 2025 was 156.39 acres. Staff completed annual compliance monitoring site inspections for 110 cannabis projects. Multiple violations discovered, resulting in violations being corrected on site, and additional building permits getting applied for. So bringing those into compliance. Referrals and assistance for violations requiring immediate action were sent to Code Enforcement, Lake County Sheriff's Office, and some state agencies. And we do thank them for their continued ongoing support and quick responses. 17 cannabis projects opted out. And the total canopy not grown identified by opt-outs is 97.18 acres. Then 45 projects submitted reduced canopy requests, totaling about 164.38 acres. 45 projects, or 45 of our permittees, for a total of 164.38 acres. Don't ask me why we're going down to the 0.38. That seems a little small for me, but. And then the total active approved acres not grown identified by opt-outs and reduction requests was 261.56 acres. So that brought us to the 156.39 estimated cultivated last year. And I'm happy to get a copy of this distributed to you.
What do you anticipate for this coming year?
We have a deadline now that's going to be updated into Article 27 of a June 1st request for opt-outs and reduced canopy. So at this point, I have no idea. I'm sure that our cannabis-related business owners are taking a look at the market and learning from what happened this last year. And yeah, so that's a detailed, I have no idea answer.
So regarding the transfers, so these are transferred from the applicants to someone else that's going to be managing or taking over the operation?
Yes, it's a direct transfer from a permittee to another permittee without any changes in the project itself. Changes in the project itself could either happen during like a director's discretion if there's no impact of environment. Which, for one example, is recent cannabis growing in greenhouses. They couldn't afford to install their lights, so they were asking for director approval to have the greenhouse growing, but no lights. I okayed that. But if there is any change that could be impacting our environment, then that gets routed over to a modification of a use permit and comes before the original deciding body, which is y'all, in most cases.
And when these transfers are occurring, the new app or the new what would it be like?
Permit owner?
Operators? Yeah, permit owners or
Permittee.
operators. Those they go through the same background checks as
Yes.
the original.
Yes.
applicants. And do they have to state a reason for transferring?
No.
Okay.
We don't ask that of any other use permit holder.
Very well. What else? 13 transfers and from all already approved.
Of our 120 approved and active.
Okay, for over 120. Okay.
An inactive or expired project cannot be revived by simply transferring ownership.
Thank you. Yeah, that's interesting. What about maybe it's not part of the report today, but regarding water use, is that something that's also accounted for when we do the?
Yeah, there's a requirement to report that in their annual performance report.
Okay, and if you know this information off the top of your head, do most projected water use for these projects, are they meeting that or below, or are they requiring more water than what they had projected?
Since staff has not brought any alarm bells to me regarding water usage, I am comfortable saying that they're within their required amounts or their allotted amounts. But I will let the planning commission know if I get corrected once I get back upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. What else? Okay, I think those are my questions.
Are you seeing a rise on the opt-outs, an increase?
You know, I would defer that to Mary. They seem to be consistently. I'm going to defer that to Mary to see if she's attending online.
I know she said for this year or this last year that folks were doing more reductions than opt-outs, which was a change in trend from what I understand from the last couple of years.
Okay.
That's encouraging. Yeah, so they're actually using their businesses rather than just totally opting out for the year. So.
Mm-hmm.
The one appeal, never mind. I don't need to know that. Thank you.
And other than just on the staff announcements, our senior planner, Laura Hall, has resigned. So we do wish her the very best in all of her future endeavors. We are working with the board and the administrative office regarding the fiscal health of community development department. And so it is unlikely that we're going to fill that position at this time. But we do still have our new resource planner coming at the end of this month. And so I'm confident that we'll get him up and running and we'll have another person to help carry the load because our planners are all working at capacity right now. And that concludes my department update. Thank you.
And then just a reminder for the following meeting for election of chair.
Yes, thank you. Pam has not been with us for a full year and didn't know to ask me to remind me that I was supposed to tell her to put the appointment of the chair and vice chair on our agenda. We'll have that next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So at our next meeting, the agenda item is going to be?
Also, we are going to launch the Planning Commissioner mini training sessions next one. The next meeting actually is going to focus on who is your team. And we're going to do the bios of the planning staff. So you hear where we're coming from, our expertise, our experience, our training and education. And then if we have time, I will be ready to do a mini tutorial on Planning Commission roles and responsibilities. But we have heard you, and I'm so excited that the commission is interested in refreshing, learning your roles, responsibilities, where you have discretionary authority, where you're sort of bound to state law or local laws, things like that. So I'm excited.
And so with that, we had a list of several topics, and so can we discuss at that time prioritizing and then calendaring those?
I'll have that ready at the next meeting for department update.
Perfect.
Yeah, just a reminder list, and then y'all can tell me what order you prefer.
One other thing that Commissioner Field mentioned was minutes. We're not seeing minutes.
They are on their way. Pam has been working on them, and then unfortunately they sit in my inbox for editing.
I'd like to just reiterate my plea and why it's so important to me. As a journalist, I had to cover meetings in a very short amount of time. I had to write 3 or 4 stories a day, and watching a video is not, it's not going to work. Minutes are wonderful.
We will continue with our format of action minutes, much to the dismay of Commissioner Field.
Is there very
But we
brief-
will get caught up on them, I promise. Yeah. Pam knows that it's a high priority.
Okay, and then I would also like to take this opportunity, because we have this planning commission dates in front of us here. So, and I would like to let everybody know that I will not be here on February 12th.
Thank you.
For
That's
future
helpful.
Planning.
All right. I believe that concludes our meeting. We'll adjourn the meeting at 11:41 a.m.